Hey there and welcome back to another MCU video. And today we'll take a look at the first episode of the new Marvel Disney Plus series, Ms. Marvel, titled Generation Y. Now, I'll be honest, coming into this show, I wasn't really all that hyped up. Yeah, I was happy to see another Marvel show and a new hero, but I didn't really care all that much about this one in particular. I liked the vibe of the trailer, but there wasn't that much story that was drawing me in. And honestly, I was a bit worried that the teenagers would be written in a deeply cringy way that would make it unwatchable. But I don't know, I think the first episode was actually quite good, and it really set itself apart from the rest of the MCU in a fun and unique way, whilst also still feeling a part of that shared universe. I really like the soundtrack, and I especially love the visual style and design, and it just really stands out from the crowd. And I know that a lot of people probably got annoyed by that kind of thing, but if everything was the same, I think the MCU would lose its charm, so I like that they're trying new things and embracing new directions. And I realise that the show has had a bit of pushback. A lot of complaints seem to be the sort of things that you see when people complain about boy bands or any other thing that's targeted towards teenage girls. Things like, oh, I can't relate to this, thus it is bad. But honestly, not everything should be made for a general audience. Some things should be targeted. And just because you don't understand it or you can't relate to it, I don't think that makes it bad. I mean, I don't relate to her at all, but I still enjoyed it for what it was. I just find these things are always better when you approach them with an open mind. And so with that being said, let's jump into the episode. We start off the episode with Kamala producing a pretty high quality YouTube video for the number of views she gets, where she gushes about how much of a fangirl she is for Captain Marvel, and that Captain Marvel is the greatest hero of all time. And I could already hear a certain subsection of the audience dusting off their keyboards and loading up Reddit and Twitter to be mad about Captain Marvel being positioned as the top dog. But I still found this scene pretty funny. They very much captured the essence of the modern YouTube video. And the whole like, comment and subscribe ending made me feel personally attacked. Also, her vid's quality shits on mine. And yet she has no views. And that's the true tragedy of this episode. Anyway, she's summoned downstairs by her mother to have breakfast before her driving test. And all the advice she receives is just too real. Scarily real. Look in the mirrors. Make sure they see you move your head, etc, etc. And then we get to the test and she fails and crashes the car. But I feel like this scene was one where in hindsight, it's just so stupid and it makes her look like a complete idiot. So we're told this is her test, but why is she being so arrogant about it? She turns on the car and somehow the car is in reverse. And in that whole scene, she didn't even change gears. So did she just originally park using only the handbrake? Okay. Seems like a bit of a weird thing to do when you're a learner driver, but alright. Anyway, for some reason she then goes pedal to the metal, which is stupid anyway. And she doesn't look, and she doesn't use her signals. This person should never be allowed to drive again. And then on top of that, she tries to brush it off to her instructor and avoid any consequences. Oh, and then her parents yell at the testing guy. Ugh, poor dude. Anyway, on their drive home, we're treated to some premium parental manipulation, as her mother blames herself for giving her daughter poor genetics, and apologises to Kamala for her having to drive the family car, which her father bought with his hard-earned money, and also apologises that Kamala will no longer be able to help her with everything for her brother's wedding, like she promised she would. Gotta love a healthy dose of guilt, hey? Honestly, this scene was just so awkwardly funny. Even if you've never experienced this, you've seen it happen to a friend or a family member before, and it just never stops being awkward. Anyway, she then arrives at school, and like many teenagers in film and TV, almost everybody there seems to be a major asshole. Every single person. As a basketball jock sort of mocks her, the coach gets her name wrong. People throw basketballs past her head as she walks. People awkwardly stare at her, bump her, stand in front of her locker and won't let her get her stuff. Is this really what high school's like in America? This wasn't my experience where I live, so I always find this shit so odd, but maybe I'm the anomaly. Anyway, since she didn't get her license, they no longer have a ride to AvengerCon, and so she and her obvious love interest Bruno have to try and figure it out. At this point, she's summoned via PA system to the school counsellor's office, where he basically tells her to pull herself together as she's becoming lost in her fantasies and her school life is slipping. And after some more bonding with Bruno, yeah, he's the love interest for sure, Kamala comes home to find a box of supposed junk that's been sent to her by her grandmother. And in the box is a bracelet that seemingly makes Mum all nervous and causes her to snatch it away, declaring it to be trash and telling her son to put it in the attic. Yeah, by that look, Mum knows for sure that the bracelet is sus. Anyway, we then have an errands montage, which serves to show how dissatisfied Kamala is with her life and how she wants more than what she's getting at the present time. She wants to be able to experience the world and carve out her own path, but that isn't something that she can seemingly do at present. And I also really loved how judgy everybody was about life decisions that have nothing to do with them. Seriously, it's very true to life, at least in my experience. We then have a cute little scene where it's shown how beloved Bruno is by Kamala's parents, with his dad getting all excited about all the tech developments Bruno's made for their house, and her mum just loading him up with food and treating him so kindly. Much nicer than she actually treats her actual daughter. Also, I love how this shows that Bruno's just been hanging out with Yusuf, just for fun. I mean, he leaves almost as soon as Kamala comes back from her errands, so he really was just there to help the dad, which I found to be very sweet. And yeah, he's very obviously the romantic endgame for her character. Anyway, we then see her crash and burn when trying to ask her parents if she's allowed to go to AvengerCon, with her mum implying that people who wear tight cosplay costumes are promiscuous. Kamala then points out that her parents are kind of sexist, as they never worry like this about her brother, and they never control his life to this extent. And this finishes up with her dad accidentally calling her different, when he actually meant that she's special. Although once again, calling someone special is also not the greatest compliment in the world. But hey, at least her brother comes in and comforts her and tells her that he'll talk to them for her. And this is a cute scene, but it's also a sad scene, because it shows that they both know that the only thing that will work is if the son steps in to argue on her behalf. But the awkward angst does not stop here for poor Kamala, as her brother does succeed in getting her parents to change their minds, but only if she dresses up in a Hulk costume and goes alongside her dad, who would also be dressed up as the Hulk. And so, we get hit with another dose of parental guilt as she hurts her parents because she rightfully tries to put her foot down and tells them that this sort of controlling oversight is cringe and needs to stop. So, who does Kamala turn to? Why, good old Bruno, of course, who manages to turn that frown upside down in one of the more heartwarming scenes of the episode. Of course, the dude misses a premium chance to kiss her, but oh well. And then he simps hard by revealing that he built her a pair of light-up gloves, just from scratch. Dude needs to get a clue and ask her out already. And after a few filler scenes to make her life seem really bad again, she has the idea to sneak out and catch the bus so they can spend an hour at AvengerCon, win the cosplay competition, and then come home. And honestly, this whole scene was quite funny, and it reminded me of a mid-2000s kids film where they explain an overly complicated plan and act it out, only for it to fail when they put it into practice. On top of this, Bruno reminds her that she needs to add her own flair to the costume for the competition, and so she goes into the attic to find the stuff her grandmother sent over, and she snatches the bracelet thing, which it seems is going to be the source of her powers in this version of the character's backstory. And I'm not sure I'm a huge fan of that change from the comics, but I'll wait to cast any more judgment until they've properly explained everything. But like I said, their plan utterly goes to shit, as she's late to get out of lunch with her family, and thus is behind schedule for the bus. She then falls out of her window, destroying her way back inside, but luckily she avoids any serious injury, despite crashing onto the ground from the second story onto her unprotected back, without cushioning her head, whilst also getting crushed by a fallen branch. But she gets up, brushes herself off, and off she goes. And of course they almost miss the bus, and then the asshole driver closes the door as she gets on, so she loses her bike forever. What a nice man. They then arrive at AvengerCon, which is very small for what I was expecting, but they seem to have fun, playing with toys, looking at exhibits, taking photos, watching her parents engage in foreplay via CCTV, normal things that people do at these conventions. But then the cosplay competition begins, and things are looking bleak for her, until she puts on her bangle, and surprise, surprise, she unlocks some hidden cosmic powers, which are fun for a little while, until she accidentally ruins the convention. Although, I think if I was there, that would have made the convention. I mean, how often would somebody with actual real powers turn up at one of these things? It'd be pretty cool. Although, I feel like the giant man head that kept rolling around probably rolled around a little too long and destroyed too much stuff. Bit unrealistic for me. Surely it would have stopped instead of bouncing back and forth. But no, that's okay. And then she saves her bully from becoming a cripple falling off Thor's hammer, and so it feels like this is going to be another Flash Thompson scenario, where the bully thinks the person is lame, but the hero's awesome, and can't reconcile that fact. Anyway though, the pair arrives back at her house, and using her powers, Kamala slips back into her window, where she's confronted by her mother, who gives her the classic, "I'm not mad, but disappointed" speech, which never fails to hit you with the latent parental guilt, even if it isn't directed at you. I could feel it coming out of the screen. And then she tells Kamala that she needs to focus on herself and not get lost in her fantasies, which is ironic because indulging in her fantasies is actually Kamala's way of focusing on herself. But luckily, she doesn't let this get her down, and she seems excited to have powers. Although it feels like it's all about to go to shit, as the Department of Damage Control has just gotten wind of things and now wants to bring her in, just like in Spider-Man. So I'm expecting a home invasion and arrest in her future. But anyway, that's the end of the episode, and I would like to remind you that these were just my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the episode? Like it? Hate it? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.